Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my future card Buddyfight Abygale Darkness Dragon World deck profile for September 2021. I actually haven't done an Abygale deck on the channel, which is shocking because this is actually one of my favorite decks to use in all of the game of future card Buddyfight. It's a deck that focuses on just basically making your opponent destroy their own deck by when they attack your own Abygale monsters. They have to send cards from the top of their deck to the drop zone, making it so they'll basically drop out within a couple turns using this deck. It's a really strong deck. I'm happy with all the new support we got up to Buddy Ragnarok for this deck. It definitely does help for the overall playstyle and the main playstyle, focusing on the many different forms of Darkness Dragon Abygale that we have, or Black Death Dragon Abygale, including the new Revival Buddy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. Now, with the world being Darkness Dragon World, our main go-to Buddy monster is the newest Black Death Dragon Abygale Revival Buddy. It's just a great card for the overall setup of what the deck is meant to do. So with this additional lineup, we are running 4 of the cards, so 4 copies of Black Death Dragon Abygale Revival Buddy. With this card, its call cost is pay 1 gauge. If a black dragon is set on your field, its size on the field is reduced by 1. And also its counter skill is Wind of Redemption, pay 2 life. If you do destroy a black dragon on your field or a card on your opponent's field, if destroyed, draw a card and put the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck into the drop zone. You may only use this ability once per turn, and it also has double attack. So with the critical of 2, it has great options for just taking care of a good number of different monsters your opponent may have. But the main play comes in the fact that it can destroy not only your opponent's cards, but one of your cards, which can benefit with some of the other destruction cards we have for Abygale in this deck. And then the mill is a guaranteed along with the draw card, unlike our next card, which I still run 4 of because it's great setup. And that is Light Ray Black Death Dragon Abygale. With this card, its call cost is put a black dragon from your drop zone into its soul and pay 1 gauge. All black dragons set on your field cannot be destroyed or returned to your hand by your opponent's card effects. And when this card is destroyed, drop the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. And if a monster is among them, draw a card. So the monsters to be among them for Light Ray Black Death Dragon Abygale. So with it, you can destroy it with your Abygale Revival Buddy, making it so your opponent will mill 3 for this Revival Buddy, and you'll gain the guaranteed draw there. And then if there's an additional monster, the draw off of Abygale Light Ray, along with the 3 mill for this. So that's 6 cards milled with it, and the fact that this card has Soul Guard means you have 2 destructions lined up with this card alone, and other ways to call it back onto the field. And the fact that we're running 4 of this card in the deck just makes for easy setup of multiple copies, since it is only a size 1. I also run, for more of a defensive playstyle, for Ruler of the Battle Zone Abygale. This is your defensive card from the drop zone. While in the drop zone counter during attacking your opponent's turn, you may put this card from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck and pay 1 gauge. If you do, nullify the attack. So with this, you have plenty of options for this card going into the soul as the call cost for Light Ray Abygale, them destroying it, soul guarding, placing it in the drop zone, and then just as long as you have the gauge to use, a way to play around when your opponent attacks to make sure that they don't hit during these specific attacks against you during the game. For the other setup we use in the deck for monsters, I also run 2 Black Crest Dragon Lady Z. This card is actually running at 3 in the deck. My apologies there. Missed it behind one of the cards. You call cost is pay 1 gauge. When this card is destroyed, you draw a card, and then you may call a size 1 or less Black Dragon from your hand by paying its call cost. So what's great about this card is it does have move, so you can place it on the left to have the additional attacks from your other units on the field, but it's mostly in here for when your opponent would destroy it. You can then call another Black Death Dragon from your hand to the field, either giving you the destruction capabilities of Black Death Dragon Abygale Revival Buddy, or the awesome setup of then your center being occupied by Light Ray Black Death Dragon Abygale. So then your opponent will destroy this card, gaining you more draw on your hand and additional cards milled from the top of their deck. For some of these size 0 monsters we run the deck, I run 2 Black Crest Dragon Vidor Nove and 2 Dark Burial Apostle Davos Araj. I might focus on a Dark Burial deck later in the future that focuses on all the new cards we got from the Beyond the Ages booster set. But for this, Davos Araj is in here for the set cards that we can search for our spell lineup, having plenty of options for many different set cards to set up our gauge, and then just more additional plays with it. And with Vidor Nov, it's able to search out an impact, and that also includes impact monsters, which we run a good variety of both. So with that, we have more ways to destroy our opponent's deck, but also set up our size 1 black dragons on the field. For our main go-to impact monster in the deck, I run 3 copies of Abygale, Armed Hal Bringer. This card is just amazing. You destroy 1 or more black dragon on your field and pay 3 gauge for its call cost. When it enters the field during the final phase, you may put a black dragon impact from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck. If you do, put the top 9 cards of your opponent's deck and up to 3 cards from your opponent's gauge into the drop zone and deal 3 damage to your opponent, and you gain 3 life. And this is all done before Abygale Armed Hal Bringer even attacks your opponent. So if you can set this impact monster up during the first turn, you can deal a total of 6 damage to your opponent alone, along with take away probably more than 20% of their entire deck in total, and also drop their gauge down, which just takes away their resource. A very, very scary impact to use. That's why I like running 3 of it. So even if I use the one and it doesn't, completely obliterate my opponent, if I use another one and have the impact to use against my opponent next turn, that'll definitely finish the job there. And that is it for all of the monsters. Moving on now to the spells. I run 4 Black Ritual. The cast cost is destroying a black dragon on your field. You put the top card of your deck into your gauge and you gain 1 life and draw 2 cards. You may only cast Black Ritual once per turn. It destroys a black dragon on the field, so you can destroy Light Ray Abygale and then gain the additional draw and mill off of this card from the destruction of Black Ritual. It's just resources. It's why I like to run 4 of this card in the deck. So you see plenty of setup against your opponent with this card. It is a once per turn, so I say the biggest weakness is when I open this card up off of Black Ritual itself. I do benefit from the black dragon I may have destroyed, but like I said, I don't like to see multiple copies too early game, so I like to spread them out, hopefully with my draws at least having the chance to use a Black Ritual once per turn. And one of my favorites in the deck is Black Regalo. This is another card for more of the gauge setup in the deck. I destroy a black dragon monster on the field, and this one's actually have counter, so I can use on my opponent's turn if they were to attack with a monster with Penetrate on my center. And then I only have that 1 monster with no Soul Guard left. I can destroy the monster, avoiding the attack. And then also, when you destroy the black dragon on the field, you put the top 3 cards of your deck in your gauge. Then if you have a black dragon set on your field, you gain 3 life. So the gauge setup is the main play here. There are only a couple of cards, which it can happen, be setting on the field to then gain the additional life with this card, but the main play comes down to the gauge cost itself. And for more destruction plays with all of our cards, I also run 4 Darkness Healing. Now, Cage of Nightmares was another spell I thought to run in the deck. If you were to run that card, you can always drop down the number of Darkness Healing and also Black Ritual that I run in the deck for additional copies of Cage of Nightmare. But with Darkness Healing, you destroy a monster on your field and counter, you gain 2 life. Then if you have a Black Dragon set on your field, you gain 2 life again. Another destruction card. This one more plays into the line of gaining life to play defensively against your opponent if they do go on the assault against you for massive damage. So a good way to just destroy your own monsters. This is another great way because I can sometimes set up the multiple Light Ray Abygales on the field, and my opponent will attack the one on the left, avoiding the destruction so they don't have to mill any cards, but then I can just destroy the card on the left myself using this card or Black Regalo or even Black Ritual to gain the additional resources I need. And the additional gauge setup also falls in line with one of the newest cards for the deck, which is For the Future. With this card, you pay 1 life, put the top 2 cards of your deck into your gauge, then you look at all your gauge and reveal up to 1 monster from among them, put it into your hand. If a monster with Jackknife or Abygale is on your field, you can look and add any card from among them instead of just the monsters. So most of the time, I'll set up an Abygale on the field, whether it be a Buddy Call for Black Death Dragon Abygale Revival Buddy, or any of the other ones I run on the deck, just to have set up on the field to then search my entire gauge and hopefully grab a useful spell that I can use along with Abygale on the field. I also run for more search power, 3 Light of Destiny. You put the top card of your deck into your gauge, then just add 1 size monster with a critical of 2 or less with Abygale, its card name, from your deck to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So this is just search power, and it searches any of the Abygales we need. Most of the time I go for Light Ray, but if I need the Revival Buddy, I have that option available to me with this card. And the gauge cost means that I can also have the call cost covered, since it does require a gauge to call either one of the main Abygales I run in the deck. For some of the lower numbers for the spells, I also run 2 Removal Voice. This is my main go-to way to just call Abygale back from the drop zone using this card. You have to pay a gauge and also the call cost of Abygale, so it's not too big as long as you have your resources set up with cards like Light of Destiny for the future, or even your Black Regalo. It just will eat away definitely if you just call that card out with the multiple gauge cost, but it does come in handy. I'm only running 2 of it though because I also like to save some of my resources for cards like Abyss Symphony. Your life can get pretty low in this deck, so being able to rely on this card for the draw power definitely does help. And also for the set Black Dragon cards, I run 1 Death Gauge Timer and 1 Execution Ground. Both are searchable with our Dark Burial size 0, Deval Siraj, being able to search out a set card. So I just run the 1-ofs of each. You really don't need multiple copies because once they're set on the field, Light Ray Abygale can protect them. But they set up your gauge in different ways, whether you set up a Black Dragon on your field or just pass time with Death Gauge Timer. And then finally, for the last of the cards being just the regular impacts, and that is Blood Dragon Ceremony, Bloody Operate. This card is an impact with counter, meaning you can use it during any time during the turn, not just during the final phase. You pay 2 gauge and call a Black Dragon monster from your drop zone by paying its call cost. So this card really does come in handy because of just the fact that you can call a Black Dragon monster from your drop zone and not just the size 1 or less like Removal Voice. It does have a bigger gauge cost, but also for this option and the fact that Removal Voice is a once per turn, if we open up multiple copies of Bloody Operate, we have multiple ways to call more and more monsters onto the field to use using this impact. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. I definitely am enjoying making the future card Buddyfight deck profiles. A lot of you enjoyed the Thunder Empire one. If you have any other requests on other decks you'd like to see updated post, Buddy Ragnarok, since we have all the support for a future card Buddyfight. I know not much else is going on for the game, but I still like to keep people updated on just some of the overlooked decks I had from when I, did a good amount of deck profiles with the new support we got in the previous years. But as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.